Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session, or panel discussion. I think after the lunch, it's always difficult for the speakers to keep everyone awake. But anyway, I think the subject is important because in the morning we had discussed on the market part, and then another panel was on the safety aspects and, of course, on the smart two-wheelers. So, continuing with that chain, we would be now covering the next most important aspect, that is on the emissions of the two wheelers. I think all of us are aware that two wheelers consume more than almost about two-thirds of the petrol which we consume. And looking at the sheer numbers, they do not get that importance when emission is concerned. We have more stress on M1 technology or M1 passenger cars when emission norms are concerned, and they are always having more stringent emission norms. But when you talk about the two-wheelers and the three-wheelers, looking at the sheer numbers and the amount of fuel being consumed by them, I think it is important that more importance should be given to this category of vehicles. But at the same time, looking at the cost impact of the on the market trends and on the affordability, we have always been trying to keep the two wheelers and the three wheelers, giving them less importance to what they deserve. We already, as all of you are aware, that we are currently at Bharat Stage 6 emission norms by jumping Bharat Stage 5, and today we are at we have to start now talking about the Bharat Stage 7, because normally we have a cycle of about 5 years, which makes it into 2027 that we should look at the Bharat Stage 7. There have been various thoughts on the subject, and various think tanks have been talking about it. But the government still has to seriously start looking into this aspect if we are going to reach this target by 2027 or getting into the BS7 regime. On the two-wheeler, the Europe, which we are normally being following, is still at Euro 5, and they still not have started discussions on the Euro next stage to Euro 5. But looking at the Indian unique condition and looking at the contribution to the pollution, there is a school of thought which talks about that whether we can look at the Euro 7 stage, make the two-wheelers meet the BS6 emission norms of the passenger cars. Anyway, we have a very learned panel here, and we'll be talking on this subject and to see how we can meet this target or what should be the target for two and three wheelers in the country. So
Mr.
we have a very distinguished panel.
Mr. Gandhi, so thanks for the intro. We'll start with the presentation first by Dr.
Yeah.
Shriji.
So to give us a backdrop to the thing, we would now request Dr. Sirjit Biswas, who's a senior research associate from Indian's Research Laboratory, IIT Kanpur, to give us a background to this. And after that, we'll take up the panel discussion.
So very good afternoon, everyone. I thank TWF for inviting me here in this August gathering, and I would like to start this discussion of this session with a very brief presentation on BS7 and beyond, and the future of IC engine in India and the two-wheeler and three-wheeler segment. So, if you see the market size, market share of the two-wheeler, it is 75% of the total vehicle, majorly for the personal use. And the market share of three-wheeler, it is 2.3% of the total vehicle for mainly the last mile connectivity. However, the impact of these two are not comparable just by the number of the vehicles. Now, why BS7 matters? BS7 aims to push the IC engine technology towards the ultra low tailpipe emission. But my question is here, why only the tailpipe emission of IC engine technology? Let's see, two-wheeler and three-wheeler are the critical in Indian mobility in commercial transport. How? So if we see the billion vehicle kilometer travel, this two-wheeler and three-wheeler is actually taking the much more share. Now, coming to the tailpipe regulated emission contributed by the transport sector. In the total emission contribution, see this two-wheeler and three-wheeler, it is approximately the, if we just talk about the regulated emission, that is the hydrocarbon, 12% by the two-wheeler, 18% by the three-wheeler, the particulate matter 2% and 8% respectively, and the NOx, this is for 5% and 12% respectively, and then the CO, that is 10% and 15%. So the key question people generally ask me, like, can ICVs achieve sustainability alongside the electrification? Let's discuss this today. So why we are here today? Basically, the air quality of India. This is the picture, Google picture for the month of December. So various research papers are also there who is actually showing us the emission problem, basically the particulate matters, the burning of solid fuels, the ozone concentration, and also the economic losses as per the percentage of the GDP. If we see the other significant challenge, that is the climate change, Delhi sees an unprecedented temperature of 52.9 degrees Celsius. Though there is a debate like sensor issues and all was there, but still this is a fact. Like the temperature is rising, and that is a issue of climate change. The melting of glacier, flood, and other natural disasters are occurring more frequently all over the world and India also. So if we see the goal of sustainable society, the main characteristics of the society is the efficient resource utilization, low carbon footprints, and balance of environment and economy, renewable resources, efficient technology, reduce consumption, and ethical economic system. Now, how to quantify the sustainability? So there is a very well-known approach of life cycle assessment where we actually assess the energy utilization, the emission, and the resource depletion in each and every stages of the process, starting from the raw material extraction, manufacturing of the product, distribution, use phase, and disposal and or recycling of the product. So just as an example, like if we see the greenhouse gas and the global warming potential, like the global warming potential is the function of lifetime of the greenhouse gases and the lifetime of the energy absorption ability of the greenhouse gases. If we see the example like CO2, the primary GHG is responsible for around 75% of the emission, and it remains in the atmosphere for around 1,000 years. If you see the methane, it's a 16% of all GHG emission, but its energy absorption ability is much higher. If we see the N2O, that is 6% of all GHG emission, and the lifetime of the CO is more than 100 year, and it is also very much energy. It can absorb the energy significantly. So if we come up with the global warming potential of different gases, so here we can see like the methane and N2O have much more potential than the CO2. So as per the IPCC assessment report, we can see the global warming potential for 100 years, 20 years. For 100 years around, it is methane is around 28 times higher than the CO2, and N2 is around 273 times higher than the CO2. So these are some concerns. Like if you see the raw material of the two-wheelers, say for example, if we just distribute the raw materials from the carburet of the vehicles, we can see the ICVs two-wheeler. This is the mass fraction, like the amount of steel, aluminum, and plastic. And if you see the BEVs, here a significant part is the main battery. Now, coming to the global warming potential of this raw material, see, we can easily identify the rare earth material used in the battery. The impact of this is significantly higher. Now, coming to the emissions in the production stage of these two-wheelers. So, if we see the ecotoxicity, the terrestrial ecotoxicity, marine ecotoxicity, freshwater ecotoxicity, the use of land, the acidification, terrestrial acidification, or photoelectric oxidant formation, the eutrophication in fresh water and marine water. In each and every cases, actually BEV is dominating with its emission. Now coming to the human health factors that is affecting the human health, the human toxicity, whether it is non-carcinogenic, carcinogenic, or ionizing radiation, the again some with some particulate matter formation or ozone depletion everywhere. This BEV emissions is actually higher than the ICV's emission. I'm just talking about the production case. I will come into the entire life cycle emission. So if we see the entire life cycle emission, yes, there are some points where the ICV's emission are higher. The ecotoxicity, terrestrial ecotoxicity, here other the means this terrestrial ecotoxicity parts are bit higher in case of ICVs rather than BEVs. Now, if I see this human health, overall human health, or just if I go just in the previous slide, the ecosystem and the overall human health, there are 5 out of 15 total impacts. In this 15 impacts, the 5 is where BEV is actually lower than the ICVs. Rest 10 where ICVs is lower than the BEVs. So my point is like how we can conclude, how we can come up in the conclusion with these figures and facts. So in my point, like we are just shifting the burden from the tailpipe to the mining sites or to the chimneys of the power plants, thermal power plants. So, like what could be the solution? The possible solution, one of the possible solution actually I would like to say is the biogas kind of thing. Lower emissions, improved air quality, reduced fuel costs, local resource utilization, basically the waste to wealth management, where actually in India our one of the bigger problem, the waste management could be solved, and the decreased reliance in imported fuels, existing CNG three-wheelers adapted to the CNG. If I just refer one of our case study on the biofuel context, this case study was on the four-wheeler basis, but easily we can correlate it with the three-wheeler, as three-wheeler is also significantly it is running with the CNG. So here we can utilize the compressed biogas, and we can see the significant reduction of the global warming potential with the help of the biogas. Now, the conclusive remarks from my side, like the China dominates the global supply chain for lithium-ion batteries, solar panels, and the electric vehicle components, which creates a strategic vulnerability. Now, coming to the Global Biofuel Alliance, a green hydrogen mission, the methanol economy, which actually enhance the India's soft power. Now, the fair comparison between the technologies by accounting the hidden emissions, that what I just mentioned in my previous slides. In incentivizing a lower LCA vehicle, so green hydrogen, biofuel, renewable powered electric vehicles, and circular economy approach, this could be the possible solution. And then coming to the battery recycling and sustainable mining, battery recycling infrastructure with the ethical mining practices. Now, see, if we generally follow the Western things. So here, Europe and US are already integrating this LCA into the transportation policy. So now we also should think in this direction. Now, the last point in my case, like India can lead in the global south by aligning BS7 with LCA mandates, ensuring the sustainability beyond tailpipe limits. So, we have published some reports on this LCA and TCO assessment of means various powertrains, and some of them are actually released. And these are some very few media attentions while walking in our lab, and just 1 minute of my lab, the engine research lab. Is there any sound? Sound is there, I think.
Slippy for better understanding and visualization of in-cylinder combustion during engine operation. Our laboratory has developed gas-oil-compatible two-wheelers to accommodate higher blends like M85 with minimal hardware modifications. Similarly, lower blends like M15 have also been tested for performance, emissions and durability as per OEM standards. We have also introduced 100% DME fuel tractor engine. The technology utilizes dimethyl ether, which has ultra-low smoke emissions besides providing an economical solution to Indian farmers. We were also the first group to develop a Euro 6 compliant biodiesel-powered SUV in collaboration with our industrial partner Mahindra and Mahindra. A pilot plant has been developed to produce biodiesel from vegetable oil. Going forward, our team has been working on design, simulation and development of propulsion systems to cater the growing demand of indigenous unmanned aerial combat vehicles. Our Boxer engine is merely a specimen of our engineering prowess, and we expect to deliver much more to the nation in coming days. Our aim is to provide powerful and reliable power plants that could potentially be used for surveillance, rescue operations and kamikaze application.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for an excellent presentation where you have tried to lay down the contours of the different fuels which can be used and what will be the carbon footprint right from life cycle analysis. So I think one question which does arise from this is that looking at it from the angle of so in your view, will this ever tightening emission norms, because we are going to start at BS7, then perhaps we may have to go further down, not only on the emission regulations but also at the CO2 emissions, because fuel efficiency again is a very important parameter. So what do you feel is this ever tightening emission norms push the industry towards alternative fuels such as hydrogen, biofuels or synthetic fuels, or you feel that ICE will continue to evolve for the two-wheeler or the three-wheeler segment?
Hello. So the first one is, sir, what I feel the evolution of the IC engine technology. Sir, if you see the track of last 50 years, if we see the evolution of IC engine, the emission has reduced around 99% from the IC engine technology. It's 50 years back, what IC engine are actually emitting now, whatever the IC engine nowadays available in the market, they are actually lesser, means 99% less emission they are producing. So basically what we have improved the combustion efficiency. And here the next part of your question, like, sir, the CO2. So if we improve the combustion efficiency and if we are burning the fuel properly, then this emission of CO2 will be higher, because we are burning the fuel properly. So obviously it is properly burning and it is converting into CO2 rather than producing the CO emissions. So in the next part, beyond BS6, means as I already mentioned in my PPT also, we should think in other direction, why only we should think in the IC engine tailpipe emissions only. If we want to count the CO2, then let's count the overall CO2 of the system, of the process. Then it can be comparable in a level playing field. It will be in the level playing field. Whether it is ICB or hybrid or battery electric vehicle, all the things come under the same level. Then we can compare these things. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now let me, I think, turn towards Mr. Bhanot, who's supposed to be the Bhisham Pitama of the automotive industry, because he is more from the angle of regulatory, and he is under his directorship. I think we had the highest number of regulations which came for the auto industry. And I, be representing the auto industry, used to have very frequent discussions on various subjects, and to see how, as an industry, of course, we always feel that the pace of introduction should be less. Otherwise, we'll be driving towards a stage where IC engines may not be any more viable. So, sir, is there a case for delaying the tightening of the emission norms and efficiency norms to allow the industry more time, so to maybe to move towards EV? Or otherwise, if we don't have that much time, then the IC technology would come to a stage where it may not become affordable. So we'd like to have your views as a policy maker.
I'm not the policy maker now.
But you had that hat.
So I wore that hot hat for 15 years. So I started the game in 1990, removed the lead-free petrol, and then sulfur content reduced. Euro 1 started, Euro 2, Euro 3, Euro 6. Anyway, that is history now. At today's scenario, my personal approach will be different if I look at the horizon. In future, I think, as far as ICE technology is concerned, it will have a totally different type of challenge. Emission norm tightening and all that, as far as I can see, it will get a backseat. Reason is that newer technologies are coming. You have a fight with your, I'm not talking in the sense of your two-wheeler and three-wheeler, I'm talking in the sense of the entire automobile industry. You see that we are having a big threat from electrification. This is the one thing, where emission and all these things go for a 6. So everything is 0. So today, our long-term emission norm is 0 emission ultimately to achieve. And as far as our two-wheeler and three-wheeler are concerned, but I think the roadmap is very clear. By 2030, I think two-wheeler and three-wheeler have got a maximum threat from the electric vehicle technology. And I think probably the question will be when the ICE engine from the two-wheeler and three-wheeler will be extension. That is a question one has to really ponder over. Because the transition in the two-wheeler and three-wheeler industry towards the electrification will be much faster than any other sector, whether the light commercial vehicles, passenger vehicles, or heavy commercial vehicles. Two-wheeler maximum threat, next comes three-wheeler in the hierarchy. So that is what I think. Emission norms and all that will become secondary, as far as I can see, because as we pass along. This is one part, which I think. Other thing is that battery technology is also advancing so much. In the next 5 years, the battery chemistry itself will change. Cathode or anode, the way they are made today, in my opinion, they will totally change. And same thing in the chemistry. Lithium battery will not be lithium anymore. There will be more content of the other elements in that. So I think the range will be extended extensively as far as electric vehicle is concerned. So I think thrust will be in that direction. How fast our battery technology moves and our range of the vehicle also get extended. Today in the normal vehicles, we are talking of a range of normally 300 and 400 miles. It will easily get up to 500 miles as far as I can see. The technology is moving towards that. As far as the life of the battery is concerned, that also is getting extended now. So people are talking the life of the battery as good as the life of the vehicle, especially in the hybrid vehicles. Today the vehicle life, battery life is considered as 7 to 8 years, and people are thinking that this will become 12 or 15 years. So that means one-time battery purchase. So threat will be to the battery industry, that is the lead acid battery industry. So totally the future directions are in a different manner. Other major hurdle is going to be the hydrogen technology, which is going to take over. So that will become a zero emission. So this Euro 6 and all that will again get a backseat as well as I can see. So I think thrusts are totally in a different direction. Bioethanol fuels, biogas. For a heavy commercial vehicle, the scene will be different. That will not be electrification.
Well, we are
The scene will
concentrating
be-
on
so
two-wheelers
this is how-
only, two and three-wheelers.
So what I am saying is the scenario which is coming in future is totally different from sector by sector. So this is how I look at the future, and I am not very keen so far as further tightening of the emission norm in the two-wheeler is concerned. That's my view.
Thank you, sir. So, as you have heard that, Mr. Chug, that the life of or the time for the ICE is fast approaching. And also, if you look at the policy decisions being taken by the various policy makers, one estimate is that 80% of the two-wheelers would be EV by 2030. That's what the targets are there. The Delhi government already, as you must have read in the newspapers, is already thinking that beyond 26, only electric two-wheelers would be registered in Delhi. Similarly for three-wheelers, and this may happen for the NCR. So how do you see that if this, how is the industry prepared? Because with your vast working with the industry, how is the auto or two-wheeler industry prepared for this scenario?
Thank you so much, Gandhijan, putting up this very pertinent and important question. I come from Yamamoto. I have been working with, and our main core business has been in India, especially ICE vehicle. And if we align, because I find so many interesting points in what IIT shared, because it's a matter of if we compare emission, well to wheel or tank to tailpipe, then theory or a practice revolves. India is a very big country, as of now 140 billion people. And what we use two-wheeler, my understanding goes that that market is shifting. For example, metro is one of the state. Now coming of this delivery guys, requirement is different. If we go to more rural area, requirement is are totally different. And same time, the way we study government direction, they are promoting agri-based economy. And from that time, ethanol becomes the first priority, first focus point. And immediately, as of now, based upon some unofficial information, already E20 is a standard fuel.
Oh, it is already there.
Yes.
Yeah, this is not a new, is
Sometime it's
mandated already.
Yeah, target was there.
No, Delhi already has it.
Yeah. Plus, now next target is flex fuel vehicle. E85, E100, and in some government direction, go beyond E20 discussion is also started. Go to E30. So government target is clear. Number one, import reduction, fossil fuel import reduction. Number two, carbon footprint reduction, because ethanol provides a biogenic factor and that cycle is available. And number three,
But how is the industry prepared for it?
sir, we are already, all our vehicles from April 2023 production, 2024 production, 25 this year, all these vehicles are E20 compliant, all vehicles produced. And ARI study shows, we have been asking but E10 should also be available. Whereas ARI and IIP and IOC study shows that there is not much risk if we use E20 for E10. But there is definitely risk is there. We need to find out those solutions. But the vehicle produced from April 2025, they are already E20 compliant. And by end of this year, each manufacturer, two-wheeler I am talking about, would launch one product each as flex fuel vehicle. Some maker already announced their launch of their flex fuel vehicles. So industry is completely in sync with the government direction. And future, like I say, that for future, beyond 2030, EV seems reasonable, feasible, more feasible, at least for personal use. Because as of now, if you talk about TCO for commercial vehicle uses comes much easier for EV, whereas for personal use EV, TCO takes much longer time. And then the point comes of the burden shifting. So my understanding is these are the transition times, and as of now, ICE vehicle, we are confident that it has a decade at least to continue. And one thing more I wanted to bring to notice, new technologies are evolving. If we talk about CO reduction or NOx control, some Europe discussion already started. Similarly, new technologies are being developed. For example, ISS, which may become standard for motorcycles. Then comes AMT. So each manufacturer globally and India based, everybody is working in this situation that ICE is not going to die in the near future.
Well, that can only happen if we do not have any further tightening of the emission norms. But if the government goes ahead with the next stage of emission norms, which we are discussing, that is BS7, which may bring the emission norms from the two-wheelers at par with emission norms from the Bharat Stage 6 four-wheelers. And the fuel economy norms going almost to the level of 23 grams per kilometer, which currently I think you are at 40 grams. So looking at all this, I think if the government goes ahead with the next stage of tightening, it will be very difficult for the IC to really exist in the present form. So I have a question for you, Mr. Marathe, because you have been working with ARAI also, and now you are representing the diesel emission ECMA. So how would the ECMA would be able to help the auto industry to meet the future tightened emission norms by components or by more advanced after treatment systems and make it still affordable? Or you feel that we would have to all go to the EV route?
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for this panel discussion opportunity, and thanks to TWF. Now, in India, we have started discussing formation of BS7 regulations, and as per our earlier practices, we follow normally the European procedures and European regulations. The Euro 7 has been announced last year, sometime in April 24, and based on that document, the discussions have started in the country for making the BS7 document. MORTH through ESCO committee and AISC panels have already formed various BS7 panels to lead discussions for heavy duty vehicles and light duty vehicles. In Euro 7 regulations, sir, there are regulations for M1 and N1, that is light duty vehicles, and M2 and N2 heavy duty vehicle, but there is no norm for two-wheelers as such in Euro 7 procedure.
Actually, Europe is still at Euro 5 for two-wheelers.
Euro 5 plus.
Therefore, India, that's what the view of most of the experts is, and my discussion with the various policymakers also, that India needs to take a lead. And one of the proposals or suggestions are that it should meet the Euro 6 emission norms of M1 category.
Okay.
So how will ECMA be able to help the two-wheeler and the three-wheeler industry, my question was, to meet those targets?
I'll come to that certainly. But since I'm fortunate to be in one of the panels of BS7 making committee, There is no panel still formed for two-wheelers and three-wheelers in those BS7 activity. We asked this question to the convener. Then they said, ki we are, as per the specific directions, existing Euro 7 regulation as such will be followed for BS7, where there will not be anything special for two-wheeler and three-wheelers. We insisted in our discussions, okay, we should be doing something for two-wheelers and particularly two-wheelers, because as everybody knows, we are 75% population of two-wheelers, both in terms of CO2 emissions and also the tailpipe emissions, they have a contribution. And the technology is available. As ECMA, I can vouch on behalf of everyone, and my colleague, he is the expert in making emission control devices. We have technologies available and we are already supplying that kind of technology to overseas market. Technology is existing, knowledge is existing. Any point of time, whenever there will be requirement of meeting a tighter emission norms, ECMA member companies is readily available to provide that after treatment devices, right from integration, development, packaging, testing, and doing everything. That I can tell in front of the assembly over here, sir.
I come to you,
Yeah.
Dr. Prakash, because you are one of the people who make all these after treatment systems. So, do you feel that you have the technology of after treatment systems with you, or like advanced catalytic converters or particulate filters for two-wheelers particularly? I'm talking in reference to two-wheelers, but we were here in this forum for two-wheelers, which will help the government, if it is demonstrated by you, to further tighten the two-wheeler emission norms and bring it at par with maybe Bharat Stage 6 M1 category norms.
Thank you, sir. So first of all, I'm happy that this IC topic is coming in this forum. So which means people recognize the importance of IC. So that's why this topic is coming here. And now, if you today see the scenario of what we are doing in BS6, today if Emitech having a development center also in Germany, they are doing testing on a lot of bikes today. And today, if you see the emission, what we are actually achieving on the bike, we are already at 50% of what the BS6 legislation says. So which means today there is already a margin available, and also Emitech today is working with the current customers, even though the BS6 is done and dusted and all the emissions we are meeting comfortably. Still, we are working with the customers mainly to see what can be done to reduce the cost. So which means what we can offer in terms of the catalytic converter efficiency improvement. So mainly when we talk about emission performance, 2-3 topics mainly comes into picture is your conversion of emissions, and the main factor is the cold start performance. So that is what is the important factor. And Emitech is already, without even waiting for BS7 or anything, already we have developed the new technologies which is being now even offered to customers right now, where the cold start improvement performance will be improved. So basically this is by reducing the weight of the catalyst, and today we have a tube on the catalyst, so remove the tube and have just a belt. So that all these things we are doing based on some experience from Germany also, and we are offering those technologies right now to customers, and customers have already tested it and they are seeing a benefit. What they are doing today is optimizing the PGM loading so that they can get a cost benefit out of it, but surely they would have already recognized that with this they are able to they can meet the stringent emission norms. The another thing is, so when Emitech started back in 1986, it was mainly started for a substrate manufacturer for high-end cars. But today, if you see, Emitech is holding 75% market share in two-wheelers. That is because it's not that we give a product just which is a very sophisticated part, so which we are giving the latest technology with low cost and which is being accepted by customers also. So today, Emitech is doing development, and they will continue to do development on the metallic substrate to meet the stringent emission norms. And as a few panel members said, that my personal view is there is still a market for IC, at least for the next 1 or 2 decades. EV transition cannot happen immediately, like in 1 or 2 years. It is going to take its own time depending on the infrastructure availability. So there is surely a potential for IC to continue for at least next couple of decades.
Thank you. Coming back to you, Dr. Professor Biswas, if we are looking beyond emission norms, is there a potential for ultra clean ICE vehicle that can match the EV in terms of carbon footprint while leveraging existing fuel infrastructure?
Thank you, sir. If I just talk about the carbon footprint, see, we have done some studies, already published some studies on our website also, where we have shown with the thorough research on each and every component of the different vehicles, different powertrains, including the hybrid electric vehicle. With alternative fuels, actually the carbon footprint of ICB, the overall carbon footprint of ICB is lower than the EVs right now in the current condition. Yeah, there is a possibility, means, and obviously the this battery technology is improving rapidly, and the ICV BEV technology is improving rapidly. So in the four-wheeler, up to the four-wheeler segment, from the higher side, up to the four-wheeler segment, it is already the ICV is in upper hand. But yes, if we see the three-wheeler and two-wheeler, maybe in some points, some categories, these BEVs are better than ICVs. But obviously, there are some other aspects also other than the carbon footprints, like I said, the human toxicity and the ecotoxicity potential. So we also need to think in these directions, like, after all, why we are doing all these things for human health and the environment. So we need to take care of all the aspects other than the carbon footprint.
Manoj Savik, last question from you before we go to the audience. See, given the cost of EV vehicles coming down, do you see a potential end date for the new IC vehicle production? My question was that, looking at the current push towards EV by the government and the cost going down, can you foresee an end date for IC two-wheelers in the country?
See that, as I mentioned to you,
Or we will continue to have?
no, you see, it's a question of time. I may be wrong saying that by 2030 everything will be over. It's not that way. For example, even in Europe, they have decided that beyond 2035, they are not going to register any ICE engine anymore. So
Yep.
now they are going back on
They're
that.
going back on it.
So those things will go on happening as
But
the
looking at the
technology
current
evolves.
situation-
So current scenario, as I see it, because the audience here is more for the future saying, what will be the role of the electric vehicle versus
So if
that?
IC is
not,
zero-
not emission sort of a thing.
If IC is zero,
So-
then...
So that's what I'm saying. As far as two-wheelers are concerned, the battery technology, in my opinion, by 2030 will be significantly advanced by that time, because solid state batteries are going to come up. This liquid electrolyte is going to be over, because from probably 2027, what I read the literature, most of the battery technology is going to become solid state, and that is going to enhance the battery life, and as well as also remove this present fear of getting the fire from which is a big hurdle for the electric vehicles. So by the moment you switch over to the solid state, so it will be significantly reduced. That is one aspect. So I think the scene for 2030, so far as two-wheelers are concerned, is very bright. So I will fully agree with the government vision that at least 70 to 80% of the two-wheeler industry will be going for that. And higher-end vehicles, say 250cc and beyond, which in our country we take it as a pleasure ride or a sports vehicle, not for common commuters. You see, that may remain in the ice and all that. So one has to wait and see. It is a big battle between that, and three-wheeler and two-wheeler, as you know, they consume 2/3 of the petrol in the country. That you know, that this your ex-IIP study itself in Dehradun. And so 2/3 of the petrol will also be saved that way. And that is a direct result to the emission in whichever way you calculate. So that will be also over. So we will be totally switching over. And in our country, 80% of the vehicle population is nothing but your two-wheeler. And nobody has ever examined in greater detail how much is the damage done by two-wheelers in terms of particle emission on anything, which I think we always talk in terms of diesel vehicle and petrol four-wheeler. In two-wheeler, which constitute 80% of the vehicle, what emission it generates and what pollution it does, I think let IIT Kanpur or somebody do that study. They can come out with that because it's a controversial subject. And because in ARI, we did a study of your what was the particular emission from the two-wheeler. So we found that one two-wheeler was generating as much as particular as a diesel vehicle. And this was also another study which was done, to my knowledge, only in Bern in Switzerland, nowhere else. Yeah. And these are the two places, and those studies says, but the industry was not in favor of pursuing this direction, and they wanted to take a back seat. So I know how much pressure I was having not to push that particular argument beyond. So anyway, leave aside those controversial points. But I strongly feel that electric vehicle will be the direction so far as two-wheeler are concerned. Majority of the two-wheelers, say 70 to 80%, time will prove when it is 2030 or 2035. It's anybody's guess. And battery technology, if it moves fast and catches up, the faster we will be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I add, Chairman sir, can I add something? Yeah. Further to what Manoj sir said, my personal opinion is that two-wheeler, as we said, know that they are more than 75% in population, and out of that huge population in the far urban area and the rural area. If we talk about that aspect, then we'll have to see the charging infrastructure. This is not very much important for two-wheelers. We can take home our battery and charge it. But what is the power generation availability in those areas for charging those batteries? Since it is going to take longer time for our country to establish that kind of confidence, therefore I think in rural areas and far urban areas, two-wheelers utilization will still be depending on IC engine for a long time.
To tell you that as far as this is concerned, this is going to become a green energy. It will be all solar power based. All villagers will be having a solar power. So I think the grid connected thing will take a back seat.
Yeah. So
But
unless
the grid will take that load.
Unless that is in hand, two-wheeler industry will still be used in the rural areas. This is what I want to say.
Yeah. No, that's right. So I think
Just one comment from my side. I would just like to quote an example, even though it is not related to two-wheeler, a work done by Mazda on their typically passenger car SUV applications, where they have demonstrated with their applications that how going from a pure IC to hybrid will in fact help in even going closer to EV for a particular range. Like if you take passenger vehicles up to a certain mileage which the customer will use for its end of its life, they have proven that ICV is still better. And if it go for SUVs, they have done mainly three things. One is go for hybrid combination so that we can utilize the full potential of ICE and EV. See, because today EV, what people will be concerned that whether it's going to run out of mileage, everything, and then giving a hybrid option will always have the confidence in the customer that they have either powertrains to run, and also they have not only that they are working on 7 stages of improvement on the engine. So today, when people are saying IC is dying, why should a customer work on 7 stages of improvement? That is mainly to improve the thermal efficiency of the engine, reduce all the losses, so that we talk about the CO2 targets, to meet the targets what is required. This is point number 2. And point number 3, they are also working on synthetic fuels. What kind of synthetic fuels can be used to get the best potential out of IC engine. So in my view, for a short term and mid term, still I think IC, even with stringent emission norms, I think IC will have the potential to meet that. But when you talk of longer term, and we can think maybe EV will be a solution, but there also we should think about the complete life cycle analysis, whatever has been shown. So just we should not look at tank to wheel. We should look at from well to wheel, what is really the CO2 consumed and whether it is really matching. If you do that analysis, then I don't think with IC, with all the enhancements in engine and alternate synthetic fuels, I think it will not be far away from EV. That is my point.
yeah. Chuk Saab, you have any final hearing from all of us? And if the end of IC is there, or does the auto industry have something like a hybrid technology which can take them further down, maybe up to 2040?
So,
only I'm talking about.
My understanding goes that all these technologies would coexist. EV, ICE with the biofuels, and number three, fuel cell. Because hydrogen fuel cell is another technology which is substituting or which is preparing parallel to hybrid. So these three main focus technology what we can see now for the future, and like Mr. Marathe also mentioned, India is a very vast country of vast requirement, and total requirement, for example, sitting in Delhi and sitting in Odisha, far off country or interior Bihar, requirements are different, uses are different, electricity conditions are different. So even policies are not consistent. For example, in Delhi NCR, few year back government made the policy. For example, you install solar panels and connect to the grid, we will buy the electricity. By now they have backed out those policies. They said that install the solar panel, consume it. We are not going to buy this electricity from solar panels. So such a scenario is available. So we must keep all these technologies are parallelly growing, and we feel confident that what best would be required for the situation, because ultimately sustainability of human race is very important. Temperatures, because this government, for example, Trump, with the change of the president, he changed the direction. So many things are interconnected, but technically we can say, ICE are fully competent to sustain for longer period of time. That's all my side.
Thank you. To look at, after hearing all of you, it seems to me that, and even I think that's what the government is, if you listen to the various announcements made by the various policymakers at various forums, I think all the fuels and technologies will coexist, and only the market forces will decide, maybe by 2027 or 2030, in which direction the country is going to go. Whether it will be total EV or it will be a mixture of hybrid, and or we may have some green hydrogen or other green fuels. So we have some time, I think. We can have a few questions from the audience. Please mention your name and also to whom you are asking the question.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm myself Rajat. This is my question to the full panel actually. So this question is, I think many of us must be having in their mind, but I don't know it is a right or wrong answer question. So right now we are in India, we are talking about multiple fuels, right? We are talking about gasoline, we are talking about CNG, we are talking about flex fuel, E20 is already in place, E85 we are working right now, and parallelly we are also talking about EV. But looking at the other side of the picture, environment is one thing. In EV, if we go for the EV also, but still our electricity is coming from the coal production, right? It is still not environment friendly. So other side of the business is like when we are talking about all this in one frame, we are losing the economy of scale of the business, right? One thing is that, and second thing, when I think 5 years back there was a announcement.
What is your question? I think you are
I'm just telling the background and straight away come for the view. So there was like when there was a request from Niti Aayog that less than 125 cc should shift to EV, and that was all the established player went to Niti Aayog and said there will be close to 2 million job losses will be there. So my question is, looking all these parameters, as a India, looking at the abundant resources we have right now, which fuel should be the focus fuel for the future?
Manoj sir?
As I see it, there are so many type of fuels, new fuels are coming up. There are synthetic fuel, biofuel, CNG gas, alternate, and then for your long hauls, like for commercial goods, it is LNG, liquid nitrogen, liquid gas is there. So I think then multiple option. Pure petroleum or diesel will not sustain. It will have mixture. That will get the back seat because of the emission angles. So decarbonization will be the thrust. So whichever fuel they come up, which has got a decarbonization angle, so that will be taken care of. So and plus competition with the electric and fuel cell technology, all these things will play a role. So as you know, today's scenario is best decided by the Europeans, who have decided by 2035 they are going to stop purchase of all diesel vehicles and CNG vehicles. But now, of course, they are thinking other way around, a little bit relaxing. That means thinking is already there. They will get away from the fossil fuels altogether. So the direction is already there. So people will come with the synthetic fuel, biofuel, all these things will. So how much it plays, and ultimately beyond to 2035, because we will not be there by that time, it will be a fuel cell which is going to come. So somebody say it will be 15 years, somebody said 20 years. So in between all these games will be played by the different technologies. So from time to time this debate will go on, and then the regulatory framework will be very important. Just like he mentioned about the president USA has changed. So suddenly one statement, the whole world changes. So I think it's a very difficult scenario. Yeah. One has to wait and see. It's very difficult to say.
Thank you, sir.
Ultimately, it will be the market forces which will decide.
In my
Yeah, any
opinion,
other? Yeah.
in my opinion, Mr. Bhanu sir very rightly said, probably there will be three fuels for the fuel of future to be given thrust from Indian perspective: biofuels, synthetic fuels, and hydrogen. And it will be for different segments and different applications. The fuel will change.
That is the important factor. I think it all depends on the customer preference and so also the particular range. Like you cannot compare what is the ideal fuel for a commercial vehicle and a two-wheeler. And two-wheeler, the lower CC application will have a different set of requirements in terms of performance. The higher CC will have different. So it all depends finally on the market what they feel. Because today there is gasoline, there is diesel, there is CNG, there is LPG, everything. It all depends on the customer preference. So I feel that there will be technology for all the fuels, but finally what will come into effect, it all depends on what really the end customer wants and also the infrastructure also. Because today if you talk of hydrogen, how we are going to store it, that is the main factor. And if there is some solution coming for that, then that could be a viable option. So it finally depends on the market force, that's all.
One last, any question, other question?
Hi.
Yeah, we can take one more. Okay, the last question, please.
Very good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the panel for such an insightful discussion. My question is, how do we see the adoption of CNG two-wheelers panning out in the next few years, given that we have a couple of variants coming out in the market? Bajaj has a vehicle out, TVS is working. In the context of emission norms, government policy, so that's my question.
Anyone would like to take the question?
There is a national grid of the CNG, which has already been formed now. And I think wherever the CNG is available, and because of the cost, it is cheaper than petrol. So the customers offer that. So now I think Bajaj has come up, because the CNG conversion in the two-wheeler earlier, it was not acceptable. And now because of the cylinder, you see, people were thinking it has got a fire angle and a pressure angle. So, but now all those problems are resolved. So I think the industry is very ready. So two-wheeler kits are available. It can be CNG, it can be LPG also. Why not LPG also? And wherever the CNG is not available, LPG can be. And LPG be carried over wherever it is, wherever the pipeline is not required for that purpose. So CNG conversion of two-wheeler, I do see a horizon. It will be there. So all these things play a role. You see that depending on local condition. And for example, in Delhi, CNG is compulsory. Tomorrow, government may come up. If in Delhi, anybody who has two-wheeler, please convert it to CNG, otherwise it will not be allowed to be run. Okay, it will be a state subject. For example, gun was put on my throat during the 90s, that the entire CNG conversion has to take place in Delhi. So it took me 10 years to convert the whole Delhi transportation into CNG. So that was the government gun. So this was and for which anyway, I was awarded a award in Washington for doing first thing in the country.
Largest CNG
Largest
fleet.
CNG network in the whole world. So So anyway, these are the things I think time will prove. CNG has got a future, no doubt about it. It will happen.
Okay, I think thank you very much. I thank the panelists for their excellent participation and sharing their thoughts. Now, with this, I hand it back to the organizers.
Thank you so much, everyone. Can we have a huge round of applause for the panelists? Thank you so much for sharing such knowledge.